You'll never date a woman again after I kill this cock.
After the
Okay guys, it is I, Freeze700. This has been long waited time. So, the Necrons, how do they fight? What are their battle tactics? What are their strategies? So, let's get started with the biggest question. What are their army capabilities? Well, they consist mostly of infantry units. Now, before you guys start losing your mind going, what? Infantry? How's that scary? Well, each infantry unit, though, individually, is as strong and same stats as a Space Marine. Having the same stats as a Space Marine is not a joke, because Space Marines wear power armor. That's right, these guys are so heavily armored, they are stronger than power armor. And that's the best armor the humans have. Now, their weapons are pretty damn amazing. After all, if you look at their Gauss weapon, their Gauss rifle is able to destroy a target at a molecular level. In one book, I forget the name, a Space Marine was killed in 3 shots. First shot disintegrated his armor, second shot disintegrated his muscles, and the third shot disintegrated his bones. That is an augmented human. An Imperial Guardsman would get killed in 1 shot. So their weapons aren't to be toyed with. Now their armor is actually their skin, and that's the issue, is that they're robots. Now, since they are robots, that means that their whole body is armor. Does that mean that they're just a bunch of walking animatronics where you just pull a wire and boom, they shut down? No. They're kept by some sort of necrodermis. And this necrodermis is not only better than power armor in some instances, it is actually resistant to warp powers. But that's not the necrodermis itself. It's more of just the fact that the being who is using it isn't alive. So because it's not alive, you can't really hurt it that much with a psychic power that revolves around living things. The biggest problem, though, with dealing with these units is that although a Necron warrior is the most basic unit, it is nothing more than just a clambering zombie machine, it can get back up after you kill it. And that's a big issue. This is why the Imperium hasn't really found a solution for them. Because on one hand, the Imperium has billions and billions of soldiers that they could just throw and just watch them get killed and slowly but surely push through the Necron forces. But on the flip side, the Necrons, you're not really killing them. You're just temporarily shutting them down. And eventually they'll get back up, so you have to throw away billions of lives again. This is why their troops, even their most basic unit, is a very devastating foe for the Imperium to deal with. Now, their regeneration does work differently, though, and that's kind of the issue that I've had with making this video, is that book to book, the regeneration changes. Now, from what I've gathered, and this is what makes sense to me, is that the regeneration is based on the individual Necron. So you may think, well, how does that work? Does every Necron have different regeneration capabilities? Yes and no. So, a Lord or a Pharaon, which is the highest rank of a Necron can get, his regeneration works almost instantaneously. Literally, the moment you blast him in the face with a Melta shot, his face already regenerated. It's fully back together. Whereas a Necron warrior, the lowest of the low, him and all the other warriors, it may take them several minutes to a full day to start beginning the regeneration process. Now, that's just beginning the regeneration process. The Pharaon, as I said, boom, he's already got his face back together almost instantaneously. There is no slow regen process for him. Now, even though these units have this slow, clambering regeneration, they're pretty nasty with their armor-piercing capabilities. So, this is kind of the issue. The Necron army, although it consists mostly of infantry units, they don't have any vehicles. They have some, but they're mostly constructs, which means that no, you're not going to see a Necron riding the damn thing. Now, because of the fact that they lack vehicles, they make up for this with high armor-piercing capabilities. When they first came out, they were vehicle destroyers, never fielded vehicles against them. But now in 8th edition, it's been kind of toned down a bit, but they still have good armor-piercing value where a shit ton of them can easily bring down a Hellhammer. They could easily bring down a Baneblade. But there's a cost to this. See, although they were capable of pretty much being versatile for destroying anything, there comes a cost in their speed. They are dead fucking slow. In the 8th edition, it's been shown to be more lore accurate where they move only like 5 inches. That is very, very fucking slow. Now, the only issue, too, with dealing with vehicles for Necrons is that not only did their armor-piercing value get nerfed to be more realistic so that way vehicles have a fighting chance, but also the armored vehicles that they're fighting usually are packing enough heat that could cause permanent damage. Now that's a word that the Necrons haven't really dealt with in a long time. Permanent damage? Oh yeah. Now when a Necron gets permanently damaged, this is where we learn about their other fascinating army capabilities. They have teleportation. Oh shit. So if a Necron unit gets too badly damaged, it may look like green fires emitting from the machine. That's not the machine being burnt out. That's not the machine being destroyed for good. No, that green fire is actually their teleportation mechanism kicking into place. This is where they're sending a code to their tomb complexes saying, this unit needs repairs. It can't regen on its own. It needs an actual scarab or some mechanic to look at it and get him back together in one piece. So it teleports away. Now, sometimes this teleportation is used for offensive capabilities. That is very terrible news for you Imperial Guardsmen out there. Now, they can use this to phase in their weak units, but most of the time it's used to phase in their largest and strongest units, like the Lynch Guard. That's mostly a way of making up for their slow speed. Now, this teleportation is actually very fascinating because it's all scientific. There is no warp introduced to it. Like the orcs, they will just throw them through the warp ass first and just plop them anywhere in the world. So it's very common to see an orc literally teleport inside a tree. Now he's half orc, half tree. But the Necrons, they do it a lot. They do it akin to the way it's described in Event Horizon, where it's not necessarily them moving themselves to the destination, more like they're cutting space and time in a way that the current destination they're in was actually a destination they're going to this whole time. So they kind of just phase in and phase out of reality. That's the best way I can explain it. We don't really understand the way they teleport, but that's the best way I can see is the way it's used in Event Horizon. You just make point A and point B the same destination, and boom, you're at point B. Congratulations. Now, the fact that it's not warp travel actually makes this more reliable. And this is why the Necrons use it, is because they don't have that risk of, oh god, now my leg is a boulder. No, they don't have this issue. Instead, they have other issues, which is that anytime they get teleported to their base from permanent damage, this has limited uses on the individual Necron. For every teleportation they do like that, slowly corrodes the individual Necron's memory and personality. This means that after enough teleportations, like hundreds of teleportations, the Necron individual would no longer have any memories at all. He would no longer have a personality. He would literally be what his appearance is, which is a machine that has no soul. And the Necrons, after all, are trying to reorganic themselves. They're trying to turn themselves back into people. That's going to be a problem if your people don't know who the fuck they are and they don't have a soul left. So this is kind of one of the issues the Necrons are dealing with. Now you may think, like, where are the Necrons' capabilities, though, of fielding these armies? Well, the Necrons have factories, actually, and that's really fucking nice. But their factories are called tomb worlds, which are their worlds. Each tomb world, though, is capable of fielding multiple armies. Many, many, many armies. Thousands upon thousands of Necrons. and they're capable of manufacturing the weapons needed and the constructs needed to win a war with any of the hostile races that exist in 40k. The only problem with this is that each individual tomb world in each factory is damaged. Some of that's from the 60 million years of hibernation. Some of that is due to just natural events, like one world colliding into a giant world. This happens all the time. Some Necron tomb worlds got obliterated completely just due from, supernovas of the sun, stuff like that. So, not every tomb world is operating at peak efficiency. In fact, this is a fun little trivia for you guys. No Necron tomb world is at 100% efficiency. So that means is that we've never seen a Necrons at their best. We only see them working with what they have. 66% efficiency, 50%, 30%, 48% efficiency. So they're really trying to salvage their products, trying to get the biggest bang for their buck. Now, some of these factories aren't awakened yet either, and this is what makes their network very dysfunctional, and this has also caused their race to be fractured into multiple groups, is that each dynasty kind of runs their own tomb world. But now it's even worse, is that they're not all awakening at the same time like they were supposed to. They're all supposed to rise up as one big unified race. Instead, they're rising up like blips all over the map. You don't know which one will pop up next. Some of them still have yet to be awoken. And that's kind of an issue, is that some of their plans revolved around key tomb worlds awakening. But now they wake up to find that either A, the tomb world doesn't exist anymore because it got obliterated, or the tomb world is not going to wake up no matter what the fuck they do to it. So they're trying to figure out how to awaken up these tomb worlds. Now you may think, well, why doesn't the Imperial Man just destroy these tomb worlds, the ones that are active? Well, that's kind of a problem, because each tomb world is heavily protected to the point that no race can actually take one over. Now you may think, well, how's that possible? Well, each tomb world is molecularly dead all around it. So if you go on the planet that has an active tomb complex where the Necrons openly own the damn world, there is not going to be a single living cell on the planet. There's not going to be a single living cell in the atmosphere. Nothing is going to be alive except for your boots on the soil. That's it. There are also constructs that roam around the planet's surface that are almost as powerful as mini titans, and they're able to destroy literally anything thrown at them, like tomb jackals and tomb stalkers. Tomb stalkers are really nasty, as they can destroy a lot of things really easily, especially rhinos. Now, each tomb world has little to no war presence, so what that means is that if you're a Blood Raven, or you're a Thousand Sun, you're kind of screwed, because that means that you're going to need a lot of support, you're going to need a lot of backup, because your psychic prowess is going to be next to useless, since there's not any warp presence around for you to draw from. This is due, again, to the lifelessness of the planet. But on the bright side, there is some redeeming value to having a Psyker around to help you with a tomb world, is that although the Psyker may be weak and fragile from having little to no warp presence, the Necrons can't interrupt him when they start casting a spell, because Necrons aren't Psykers. They're not capable. They don't have a living tissue. They're not having these souls that are so powerful in the warp. No. But on the flip side, more bad news, the Necrons, when their Cryptex and their Shards of Catan start using their abilities and spells, those can't be interrupted by Psykers because, well, they're not exactly the warp. The Shards of Catan are just too damn powerful to be interrupted by any living thing. But the Necron Cryptex and stuff, when they use their abilities, they're not spells. Those actual science being used to enhance their troops. Now this may make you think, well, why does the Imperium have to even touch the damn ground? Why not just blow it up from orbit? Well, more bad news. The Necron fleets are not a joke. Now, their armies may be numerous, but the fleets are not. So, although they may have millions of Necron warriors where each and every one of them is a full warrior, the fleets are very limited in number and size. But that isn't a problem for them. After all, the Imperium is spread way too thin. And usually the only force that would really muster a massive warships at them would either be Orcs or the Imperium. The Orcs don't really care to fight the Necrons because they're very boring, and of course it's kind of hard to deal with the fact that Orcs are just too stupid to realize that Necrons are a big threat. Whereas the Imperium, they know the Necrons are a big threat. The only issue is that destroying a Necron ship is much the same as destroying a Necron. They self-rejuvenate. And this is kind of the worst part, is that each Necron cruiser is fully capable of hurting and crippling Imperial battleships. This is not a good exchange for the Imperium. To actually spend all that time getting these ships together and lose Emperor-class ships to the Necron's tiny little cruisers. This isn't good. And after all, the Imperium can't replace these ships. They've lost the technology. So to lose these massive ships is a real hurting to the Imperial strength in the galaxy. Now, there are some massive ships that the Necrons do possess. But these massive ships are very, overpowered. Like, the World Engine was able to destroy whole worlds with ease. Literally, in minutes, it could destroy 7 worlds. So, to take that out, it would require a huge Imperial response, and it requires several Space Marine ships, which are, again, very high technology and very pricey when they get destroyed. So that's all cool, but how do the Necrons really commence a war? How do they start it? Well, first, the Necron complexes have to start up. Now, the moment they start up, their scarabs and a few other mechanical aids like the spiders awaken, and they start to power up and repair the tomb complex. But after this, the Necron warriors start to wake up too. And they start to either aid in, some of the mechanical doodahs like repairing, or they start marching out in sync with each other and fanning out across the world doing reconnaissance. Now, based upon what the Necron warriors find, will judge how the tomb complex computes what it should do next. If it finds a small outpost, the complex will just awaken a few more warriors, maybe an immortal or two, and that should be enough to wipe it out. But if it discovers a large hive city, this is where the complex quickly rips it into full gear and awakens as many people as it can, especially the leaders, because it needs them to really compute what to do next, as its computing is kind of limited. Now, the countless amounts of warriors and immortals will awaken, along with the Necron overlords, and, of course, after they take command, this is where things start to get a little complicated. So, the Necrons abide by a command structure that is almost identical to the Mechanicus, and it's called a nodal command. Now, to put this as an example, if a threat is deemed mild or low, they'll send a low Necron Lord with a few immortals and a few warriors to deal with the target, which, according to their calculations, should be more than enough. And that Lord can use whatever strategy he wants to deal with that target, but he has to use with what he has been given. He can't make more units and he can't really request more unless the Lords have seen that, he might actually need more. But by that point, it depends if they'll change it with a different Lord instead who will be in charge, someone higher and greater up the chain. Which brings us to our next target. What if the threat is a greater threat? Well, this is where the Pharaons will take over, and this is where it may not be just one, but multiple. If it's multiple, this is where it gets even more interesting. Along with the greater military strategies and units used, there's a few other reasons why they do this whole nodal command, is that this allows them to cooperate with each other. This allows them to actually devise multiple strategies. So in other words, one Necron Pharaon may go, okay, I'll take all the elite units. Give me all the Lynch Guard, give me all the Jackal Tombs, give me it all, just all of it. Whereas you guys get all the Gauss rifles equipped onto the shitty Necron warriors. So that way you can just deal a massive load of damage and just spray the enemy down, while me and the elite army will shred their backline. This gives the Imperium, and in fact the Eldar, kind of off balance. This makes it where every enemy that they fight doesn't really know how they should address the threat at hand. Because if you fight a Necron army, you need to kind of go specialized against it. You can't just generalize it the way the Imperium loves to generalize threats. If you're fighting a bunch of Gauss-wielding Necron warriors, it's probably good to bring an elite army to just crush it with minimal losses. But if you're fighting their elite army, this is where you may want a lot of firepower, but it's going to be more spread out, not all your chips into one unit, because those elite units in that army will definitely shred it. After all, their elite units do not mess around. So eventually we get to the part where the Necrons will go into a full-scale war, but they do it akin to the Iron Hands, and this is why I love the Iron Hands and the Necrons at the same time. I honestly see them as the same faction when you really boil them down. So the Iron Hands and the Necrons, they actually like to look at their target, they like to evaluate it and predict using certain math algorithms how much it will cost for them to wipe out that target. Now they use this to predict their losses and their chances of winning. This is why the Necrons rarely lose a fight, because they do not pick fights they cannot win. They only pick fights that they can win, not fights that they want to win. Whereas some Space Marine chapters, they just choose a battle because they find honor and they want to win it. The Necrons do not fall for this. They instead look at it and go, we lose 73% of our army. This is unacceptable. Let's reevaluate this and maybe try it with a few more Immortals. Maybe add a Lynch Guard in there too. Maybe add a Tombstalker. We'll see what our chances are then. So, you may think, well, shit, now I know how the Necrons commence war. They're crazy. They use varying tactics, so really no one can really assemble a one strategy fits all for all Necron builds. Well, it doesn't stop there. See, here's the scary thing about the Necron army. Their war doctrines and their war tactics doesn't stop escalating. So, a lot like orcs, actually, the more you think about it. When orcs start fighting, they get deadlier and deadlier and deadlier as the fighting goes on. Necrons are much the same. The more and more you resist, the stronger and stronger the Necrons get. The more and more they keep ramping up the heat. They will just keep turning it and turning it and turning it. It's almost like a car chase. You think you can outrun a cop? Okay, try 3 cops. Okay, try a spike trap. Okay, try a helicopter. Oh, now you're running on foot? Now we're going to try dogs. So they're just going to keep escalating the fight. This, of course, will either do one of two things. Either this will make the enemy terrified into fighting, so now they're going to be too scared to actually fight as the threat is way too overpowering for their mortal mind to comprehend, or it's going to make the higher-ups, the commanders and stuff, realize that the cost is too great. So, instead of sending a bunch of men who are literally going to piss themselves at the enemy, instead they look at this and go, okay, I give up. Let's send our men to a fight that we can actually benefit from and actually stand a chance of winning. Now, this is actually a rather scary thought, as we have yet to see the Necrons reveal their strongest unit. We have yet to see it. We have seen it where And this is, of course, very scary because we've seen their grunts. We've seen how dangerous their grunts are. Their grunts are able to go toe-to-toe with Space Marines. And then we see their lords where a chapter master stands no fucking chance against a Necron Pharaon. So it makes us wonder, well, what's the commander above that? What is the unit that they use to destroy full Emperor Titans? We never know. Because as of yet, they've never seen a threat that would actually garner them to whip out their strongest unit. We've seen them deal with a few things like smaller Titans and such, but never have we seen them go, oh shit, guys, we gotta go guns blazing, whip out the big boys. We've never seen them do that yet. So you may think, the Necron army is lacking. Reality is they're versatile. They're able to deal with anything, and they're still elite enough to whoop that thing's ass, even if they decide to just go mass warrior army. And of course, this is a bad news in the lore perspective, because that means there is absolutely no way you can actually win against a Necron other than to keep them asleep. Make sure that they never awaken to begin with. But once they awaken, which now the Great Rift has happened, many Tomb Worlds are awakening. Now it seems like, well, the Necrons might actually win and might actually take over the galaxy. Turns out their plan to take over the galaxy once the old ones have gone may actually work. As far as their chances go at conquering the galaxy, they're pretty damn high. The only issue is their drawbacks, which would be they're limited in number and they're divided. But these are rather small obstacles to deal with, whereas everyone else is dealing with much bigger obstacles. Like the Imperium Man is way too spread. The Orcs are even more divided, and they can't stop fighting with each other to actually unify against the threat. The Eldar are way too few in number, and they're also deviants. They like to deviate from each other and assemble their own little war bands for their own lofty goals that ultimately don't help one another. So this is not looking good for Warhammer 40k as far as the Necrons are concerned. Besides that, this has been Freezer 700. I hope you guys enjoyed. Sorry if my throat's really raspy. It's because I pulled a 20-hour day. This has literally been 20 hours for me that I've been awake. And I'm really tired, and my voice is like super fucking dry despite drinking over 8 drinks. So, besides that, hope you guys enjoyed this video. It's more structured, more easy to digest the information. Just comment down below what you guys think, and let me know what you guys want to do for the next topic. See you guys next time.